Pastor to open us in prayer.
The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Oh, good and gracious God, you continue to send rays of hope into our community and into the world through so many folks who serve you in tireless ways. We thank you for Courtney, for all the ministers and people who work at Palmetto Place to bring hope into the lives of young people in continuing creative ways. Bless this time this morning with your spirit that we might have our hearts opened even more deeply to your call to be beacons of hope in this community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and I'll introduce Courtney Tidwell. What is your title?
Community Outreach Coordinator.
Community Outreach Coordinator. And as a background, we've been, Palmetto Place is one of our Kingdom partners, and we've been providing food for the children's place over in West Columbia during the pandemic, and then when they had the girls and the babies, we were doing a meal for them, and now that house is now called Samantha House, and they're independent young adults 18 to 21. Am I saying that right?
That's right.
And we are providing a meal for them the fourth Thursday of the month. So I'll turn it over to Courtney, and she has some changes, I guess, within the organization. She can tell you a little bit. Lights.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
So as you probably know, you guys have been partnering with us for so long, and whenever the partnership first began, Samantha's House was a home for foster care youth. But there have been a lot of federal changes about how group homes can operate, and we were seeing that we had a 30-bed facility and we were only getting 7 girls at a time, and it wasn't really benefiting the community in the way that we thought was best. So we have made a lot of changes over the past 3 years. We rebranded in 2019, but then the pandemic happened immediately after, and it's been hard to go out into the community and educate people and let people know. So very excited for this phase of the pandemic, where we can at least get together and talk so we can share what we're doing. So let me first talk about why we call the house Samantha's House. We have a board member whose name is Samantha, and she actually started off in foster care at Palmetto Place. And then after she turned 18 and was out of foster care, she was still able to receive services from us through our independent living homeless youth program. So a lot of times foster care youth, it's kind of like a pipeline. These foster care youth, especially if they've been in and out and their families don't take the classes they need to take and things like that, once these youth turn 18, not all group homes feel like a home like Palmetto Place do. Sometimes youth really feel like they're in facilities and they're locked up. So when they turn 18, just like our 18-year-olds at home, I'm out of here, I'm done with this, I don't want to be here, and they sign out of services. Technically, you can stay in DSS services until you're 24 through aftercare services, because federally youth is 14 to 24 defined. But unfortunately, so many foster care youth have such poor experiences in foster care facilities that they sign out when they're 18, but then they turn around and see that they don't have any sort of adult support behind them, and they end up homeless. So a lot of homeless adults started out in the foster care system. So So Samantha, she's on our board, she's amazing, she's actually a social worker herself, she's got her master's degree in social work, and we're just really proud of her, and so the house is Samantha's House. So I'm going to kind of take you through the continuum of care at Palmetto Place. First and foremost, people ask me, how do homeless youth find us? A lot of times it's a school social worker or even like a church community who realizes, wow, this teen's behavior has changed. Their grades are slipping, they're acting different. You sit down and talk to them, you find out that mom's got a new boyfriend who's abusive, and instead of staying at that house, they're sleeping on couches, they're sleeping in cars, they're just sleeping wherever they can to get by. maybe they started a DSS investigation and the family cleaned up for the investigation, but as soon as the case was closed, now they're back to their old ways. Or maybe they're 17 and by the time the investigation closes, they're 18 and there's nothing DSS can do after they turn 18 if they're not in the system already. And maybe, people are still in high school at 18, depending on when their birthday is. So, they're still seniors in high school and they still need that support. So they can find us through school social workers. A new program that I'm excited to tell you guys about is our Safe Place program. You may have seen these little signs around, especially at these new quick trips that are popping up all over Columbia. The Safe Place sign means that a youth can go into the Safe Place. Quick Trips is our biggest one right now, but right now we're also partnered with the Drop-In Center downtown for youth and also the Comet bus system. And as we're building these partnerships, we're starting to look at more places as well. So a youth can walk into that establishment, talk to any employee and say, I saw your Safe Place sign, I need help. Then that employee will call this number here, and then they'll be referred to us. One of our case managers will go out to the facility, and if it's not a situation where maybe they were 13 and they just went for a walk and got turned around and now they're lost, we can't just call their parents and get them there. Maybe they are being abused. Unfortunately, trafficking is what Safe Place sees a lot because they're at gas stations that are off of highways, youth being trafficked and things like that. So it connects them to us. So I'm going to leave you guys some of these cards because I'm really hoping that people in the community will be Safe Place advocates. They'll learn more about the program and just if you are at a stoplight and there's the person standing beside you with a sign looks young in the face and you happen to hand them a bottle of water or something out your car and you ask them how old they are, if they say they're under 20, you can hand them this card and then they can do the referral services on their own. It's just a touch and go. And then if you have a youth program here at your church, I would be happy to come in and talk during their Bible study hour or their social hour just to educate them on it, because maybe they might not need this, but they could tell their friends and friends tell friends, and then now the youth know what the sign means whenever they see it. So this is another way that we can get youth into Palmetto Place is through the Safe Place program. Once a youth comes to live with us, they usually come through our West Columbia location first. Especially our younger youth, and they do a program called Basic Center if they're under the age of 18. That's their first 21 days that they're living with us, and that's our only federally funded program. And that is us just trying to figure out, is there any other place that you can live besides this shelter? We're trying to reach out to other family members. Maybe they have a best friend at school whose mom would let them live there, but they're already kind of struggling with maybe some food insecurity. So our case managers could work with them to make sure that they have enough food in the house to take this youth in. And then that's called a fictive kin, and they could go live with them. But sometimes once a youth has found us, they've already exhausted those resources. So they can come live with us. And then after those first 21 days, if they stay with us, then they're moving into our independent youth program. The length of stay there is really dependent on the youth. Like I said, with the 18-year-olds, some people are 18 and they've already graduated and they have a full-time job. Some people are 18 and maybe they failed a grade and they're in the 11th grade right now. So it's totally different situations. So the person who is 18 that's graduated high school already, we've seen this a few times this summer. We had some youth come in and moved in maybe 2 weeks before graduation, but they'd already been accepted to college and they're going to be leaving next week to go off to university. So they just needed a place to rest their head and have a safe place to be until they could go to school. On the other hand, we could have that 18-year-old that's still in the 11th grade, or possibly an 18-year-old whose family, the homelessness was chronic, and they dropped out of the 10th grade. So we're working with those people to finish their education requirements. And then, we have just our high schoolers who have come and moved in while they're still in school. They have to have at least a C to get a part-time job if they're still in high school. And then if they've already completed their high school education or their adult ed education, then we're looking at full-time jobs or part-time jobs, to be the equivalent. all of our youth have to do 30 hours of productivity a week regardless. So if they're high school students, then that's going to be their 30 hours. If they're high school students with good grades, then they can, get a job. So after our youth are living with us and they start working, all of our youth are required to submit 60% of their income monthly so that they can start learning how to save that money for rent and utilities. That's not a program fee for that house, our West Columbia house. 100% of the funds that they save while they're living with us, they get back in a check after they leave our programming. And then let's talk about leaving the programming, and that's when Samantha's house will come in. So, okay, we'll take that same 18-year-old who's already graduated, but maybe their parents, since they were 8, were like, as soon as you turn 18, you're out of here. We're not going to have anything to do with you once you turn 18. You're not my problem anymore once you turn 18. They turn 18, they get an apartment or they move in with a friend, and then they don't have any skills to upkeep an apartment, and then they're evicted 3 months after they sign a lease. It's really hard to find an apartment after you have an eviction on your notice, especially in the climate right now with apartments and the shortage on affordable housing. So this person has completed our program. They've saved up their 60%. They've done our life skills. All of our youth are required to participate in life skills classes as well, at least once a week. Case managers put together a life skills class that's anywhere from how to balance a checkbook to how to change a tire, how to coupon, anything that you would need to be a successful adult. So they've completed that, but then they start working with our aftercare case manager, and no place is letting them move in because they had that eviction on their record. If we have space at Samantha's house, then they can kind of funnel through to our other programming. So Samantha's house, the house that used to be for our foster care youth, is now a second-tier independent living program for youth like that 18-year-old or other youth that we're referred to in the community that are too independent to live over at Samantha's house, but can't have their own place. Samantha's house is a downstairs. We have all of our offices. We have a boardroom where we still do trainings with those youth. And upstairs there are 7 bedrooms. They're kind of like little tiny studio apartments basically. And that's for those youth who just can't get into their own place yet, but they have a job, they have a car, they want that independence, they want to know what it feels like to be an adult. Over at our West Columbia location, which we also call the Oaks, they have a hot meal every night prepared for them. Lunch and breakfast, we have everything they need in the pantry for them to prepare that for themselves. Over at Samantha's house, the hot meal is 2 to 3 times a week so that they're learning to cook for themselves at night, the nights that we don't have the meals donated. And thank you so much for being one of our sponsors to help fund those meals and get those meals to them. But over at Samantha's house, there is a program free. It's $250 to live there a month, but then you still have to save a certain percentage as well, so that you have that money in your savings. And then as time goes by, I think it's like 60, 90, maybe 120 days, the program fee increases so that they can understand that you're not going to find a place where rent is $250 outside of the door. So they're learning how to save that money at Samantha's house. Then we have been donated a set of duplexes, and we're working on renovating a townhome that was donated to us as well. And that's just more stable housing for these youth. When you have bad credit, some of these youth, their parents have been using their social security numbers since they were babies, and their credit is in the ground before they even are 18 and can utilize their credit truly. So, if they can't get their own place after they've done Samantha's house, or if the case manager recognized that they were ready for full independence before Samantha's house, then we can put them in those duplexes and these other housings that we've been donated so graciously. So then we have an aftercare program. All of our youth who graduate from any of our programs are eligible to go into our aftercare program. That is 1 year of case management after they leave our services so that we can be sure they're not falling back into a cycle of homelessness. Another thing that happens, unfortunately, a lot is, mom had nothing to do with the kid whenever they were a kid, and then mom had nothing to do with the kid when they were struggling as a young adult, but as soon as they get an apartment now, and mom sees that, mom is back at the door, mom is calling, mom needs help, and then now the youth, a lot of our youth feel guilt for their families, and now all of their money that they should be paying towards rent, now they're sending mom money for groceries, or they're sending mom money because they know they have younger siblings at home that need the help. So our case managers are really just that supportive adult to say, I know that you feel this guilt, let's talk about it, let's get you into counseling for that guilt, because right now what's most important is your success, and you didn't put yourself here, and you didn't put your mom there. So that's really great for our case managers to be able to do that, and we don't like kick anybody to the curb after that year. We still do once a month, those aftercare residents and then previous graduates, they can meet once a month with the case managers and their peers. And that's really important to have that peer connection. You know, some of our kids go off to university, or our kids go off into the workforce, and everybody's sitting around like talking about, you know, their childhood and things like that, and it can be really isolating to hear people talking about, you know, summer trips and vacations and being able to be in sports that they weren't able to be in because they didn't have the money, and then going home and being like, well, dang, I don't know anybody that relates to me. So for them, those youth to be able to get together once a month and really fellowship and just kind of relate to each other, and sometimes the youth get better counseling from each other than they can get from an adult, depending on what the situation is. So we're really grateful for that program. And then we have a rapid rehousing program as well. So in any of our shelters, like Samantha's house or over at the Oaks, we can't house anybody past their 21st birthday due to our DSS agreements and things like that. However, like I said, youth is defined up to age 24. So if we get referrals for people that are 21 to 24, Braylon, one of our case managers, can go out into the community, do some assessments with these youth, and if they qualify, then we could provide rapid rehousing funds, and that's first month's rent and security deposit into a place, and then, you know, we utilize our volunteers and donors to furnish these units that they get into, and then once again, they've got that year of case management with Braylon followed up by the aftercare program. So it's really a continuum of care. We really, you know, we're a safety net. Like I said, a lot of those, like the homeless adults that you see on the street, now since the pandemic, we are seeing people that are just suddenly homeless. But before the pandemic, it was really things that were a cycle, things that were generational. And, you know, we're a safety net to catch them during that late adolescent phase and try to get things in place so that they don't end up, you know, 30 and on the streets. Anyone have any questions? That was a lot of information.
That's absolutely awesome. So awesome.
Thank you so, so much. And so, yeah, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate everything that you've done for us. And like I said, if you would like to schedule, I don't know who runs the youth programming, but I would love to come in and talk to the youth just about Safe Place. And that's like really one of my biggest initiatives as outreach, is first making sure that the youth know that these services are here because they're the ones who need it. Cool.
So what is the age, the youngest that's over at the West Columbia? They go up to what age? And then
So we do, typically for the homeless youth, it's 16 to 21 there, but that is a DSS licensed facility. So if DSS calls and they can't find an individual family home for them to go into, we could take 15-year-olds there as well. But we try to keep it 16 to 21 just because somehow there's a really big difference between being 15 and 16 up here. So, yeah.
if I remember correctly, Richland too, do you get referrals from Richland?
We do.
Too?
We get referrals from all over. So there's an act called the McKinney-Vento Act, and that is for youth who are marked as homeless by their school social workers, and that can help, you know, fund like sports and things like that. But most importantly to us, that keeps that youth in that school where they were identified as homeless, and it pays for taxi services. So all of our youth at our West Columbia home don't go to the same school, which is great because some of those kids will go to the same school, live in the same house, work at the same McDonald's, and I'm like, y'all gotta separate. y'all gotta separate. But So the taxis come through and take everybody to school. Sometimes people want a fresh start and they want to just leave their school. And we have 2 high schools near the campus that they can choose to go to. But sometimes, like, their friends, that's their foundation. That's the only people that they've had to have their back. So to keep them in their origin school is a really wonderful thing. Yep.
How many spaces at the Oaks?
The Oaks, we have 20 beds, and we're co-ed. Any other questions?
So, we're helping with meals, and I imagine that we're helping just direct financially as well. What else do you need from the community?
Right now, my biggest, like I said, well, my biggest initiative is the youth and educating the youth, but really getting the word out. So many people think that we're a foster care organization and that we have tiny babies. And don't get me wrong, some of our youth that are out in that rapid rehousing program that have their own apartment do have children of their own, and getting them placed so that their babies are in a safe place is very important. But we really are a youth serving organization, and so getting the word out. So if you know, obviously you guys are a church family, but you probably have other groups of friends, hosting something at your house, having me come by and just educate people on what we do is really step one. We had a board meeting last week, and that was the real big push, was just to first and foremost educate the community on what we're doing at Palmetto Place and just really pushing the mission. Besides that, we have a common needs list. We always need most things that everyone needs in their house: toilet paper, paper towels, trash bags, laundry detergent are my 4 biggest calls that I get from the house. Hey, we're running low on this. So that's always really helpful. And then on September 24th, we have our 3rd annual Hero Hustle 5K. And so all the proceeds from the 5K are gonna go to benefit our youth. When I say 5K, people go, oh no, I don't run. I don't either. Most of our followers don't. We do have the people that sign up through Strictly Running, and they're out the gate as soon as the thing runs, and they run the 5K in 16 minutes, and I'm blown away. I don't understand it. But most of our followers come with strollers, with their dog, and they just kind of check out Timmerman Trail out in Casey. If you've never been, it's beautiful. It's so nice, and it's so nice at the end of September too. It's shaded, it's cool. Registering for the 5K would be another big one, and you could register as a group. You guys could come out representing Living Springs, if you guys have t-shirts or whatever, and then groups get a $5 off discount off of the registration price. And I've got my card here, and our card's got our website on it, and you just click on events and you can register from there.
Do you know offhand what the cost is for
25. 25 for individuals, so it's 20 for youth. If we sign up as a group, it'll be 20 apiece. And then I believe we'll accept registrations up until right before the bell rings or whatever for them to go. But if you want a t-shirt, you have to register before September 9.
Courtney, I just want to say, I've been, for a long time, I've had some involvement with Palmetto Place. I just want to thank the staff and what you all have a wonderful way of seeing into the future, or somebody's a great visionary on knowing where those needs need to transfer. Because I've watched it's transformed over the years.
Yeah.
From when we first were going down off Colonial to that home, and the interaction there was small. I mean, it was a smaller. It's probably where people started thinking about Palmetto Place at a foster age was I think maybe because of that.
Yeah.
But it's just a wonderful thing you guys have just transformed over the years and continue to evolve based on the needs, and I hope we continue to support you in the way we can.
Thank you so much. I love that. We're Jill Lawson, our most recent previous ED, had a lot to do with a lot of the changes. Now we have Sean Caraballo, which I think everybody just calls her Sean Caraballo, but she's our new executive director. She came from City Year, so she really understands like the educational impact of homelessness. But she started off PRN as a house parent, and has become our executive director. And Right now we're working on our development team, and so many people that have worked for Palmetto Place previously are about to like sign on as like contracted or part-time employees because they like still see the value in Palmetto Place, and I'm really excited for this next phase because there's just a lot of really great ideas being thrown around and a lot of great people in the community that still support us. So.
What were the 4 things you mentioned? Laundry detergent?
Laundry detergent, trash bags, paper towels, toilet paper.
And would you rather have the items or the money to buy them?
Oh goodness, I mean.
Is it easier if somebody else does the shopping, or?
Yeah, it's very much a both thing. If you go to our website and you click get involved, we have an Amazon wish list, so you can order straight from Amazon and it'll get drop shipped to our house. So that one's super easy just for us and our followers. Monetary gifts are always welcome because there will be things that'll just, pop up. Like I had a kid that swore that their family was going to buy their laptop for college, and then they leave next week and they were like, they're not buying my laptop for college. So we were able to, dip into funds like that where people just, did a one-time donation or something. Also looking for reoccurring monthly donors. So if you go to our website and click donate now, it'll take you to a site where you can donate literally as little as, $2, $5 a month can really help add up at the end of the year.
Has there ever been an article in the state on Palmetto Place?
Oh gosh, probably not in a while. I've been week before last, I was on WIS, and I've been on ABC Columbia this week. Print-wise, we've been in Cola Today a couple times, but I should probably reach out. I forget that newspapers are a thing.
Yeah, some of us old people still
No,
read.
people still read them though, and I will
read the paper. But
yeah.
I mean, I see things where something's in the paper. It's probably on the TV news also, and then
Yeah.
people respond.
No, that's a good idea to reach out to print. I think that I usually click on the state and then it asks me to on the internet, and then it's like pay for it, and I was like, I would rather just go buy a paper, thank you. So yeah.
So that duplex, would you explain that again? What who goes into that, or how do you determine who lives there?
So the duplexes can be for anybody ages 18 to 24, but typically people that are moving in there are 21 to 24. Some of those youth can be people who have gone through our continuum of care, but so far it's been outside resources. We had a girl from Lancaster call us, and she was 7.5 months pregnant and was getting kicked out of her home and had nowhere to go. So she's in one of those units, her and her baby. And so it's really, it really depends. We have a wait list. We have a wait list in all of our programmings right now. There's not enough beds for homeless youth in the Midlands. There's not enough beds for homeless youth in the United States. So we just really try to get people, the younger people into the Oaks and into Samantha's house so that those duplexes can be for that weird age where, imagine being, I don't know if you guys have ever been to transitions before, and I'm not saying anything bad about transitions, but a lot of people who live there are much older. So imagine being 22 and pregnant, and they're like, oh, well, you got to go live at transitions. It happens, and it's great that it's there. But with transitions and shelters like that, you have to leave every day and then be there at a certain time in the morning to see if you can get a bed. At Palmetto Place, you have the bed, it's yours until you exit the programming, until you and your case manager work on your exit plan. They have to leave, and I think it's a week. If we don't hear from them in a week after they've left, then we assume that they're not coming back, and then we get somebody off the wait list into their bed, but it's really their home.
Do you know the percentage of, trying to search, of returning cases, like you said, they may leave and
Right.
they end up back?
I do know that it was very low. I think we were in the board meeting the other day. Kristen said that we had 102 non-duplicated clients so far this year. And that is because some kids will come stay for a weekend and realize that that was a silly fight with mom and I should not have left, and they go back in. Others, you know, when I say non-duplicated, I'm talking about ones who come in through the Oaks, not people who do the full continuum. These are people who are in one program and then they're done. So it hasn't been, and since I've been there in 2016, I can think of maybe 3 youth who left and came back. But I mean, I haven't been a case manager since 2019, so I could, you know, definitely some numbers could be falling through the cracks, but a lot of the times, we had a 92% positive housing outcome last year. So that means that these youth went either back into a family or to a fictive kin or into their own place. And what is it, that extra 8% are people that walk out the door and we didn't know where they went and they never came back.
I don't mean this in a bad, and you may have spoken to this earlier, but I hear you say mom a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So is most of what you're seeing due to a single family, just a mom environment that they're coming from, and like you said, it could be a boyfriend, it's just something bad situation that's involved.
Yeah, I mean, just talking, and I don't have a statistic on it, but just talking to the youth, usually they're saying my mom, my mom, my mom, my mom, and I'm like, okay, cool, where's dad? Well, we're friends on Facebook, but he lives in Florida or something. And then some of our parents, we do have youth who have been orphaned. We have one youth who's in our aftercare program. Both of his parents passed away, and he has an uncle that is active in his life, but he doesn't have an extra room in his house. He doesn't have space for another person.
That brings up my next. So if you were to have an extra room in your house and you would entertain that, what is the requirement and what all do you need to do to be involved with that?
We put host homes on the shelf in 2019, 2018. It was an initiative that we tried to start, was, you know, basically fostering, but without going through DSS and having an unaccompanied youth in your home. Boundaries are so hard for people, and we couldn't recruit anybody. I think I had like 2 people over the whole year when I was trying to recruit who were even interested. And then we had one lady who did it just on her own. We didn't encourage it. But once the youth got there, they were like, oh, their behavior has changed. Oh, they're different. Come get them. And we're like, we didn't set this up. There's nothing that we can do. You're gonna have to call the police if you want that person out of your house, because this isn't a part of our programming. So that is something that we have entertained in the past, but with so much changes in our actual shelter, we've put it on the shelf until we've got everything foundationally in our campuses.